Restart now.
Like Jim Carrey.
I look like Jim Carrey.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Welcome back to another video with Grant's Heating and Air. Today we're showcasing another all-electric system by Daikin. This particular air handler is the DV42 FEC model. We took out a gas propane furnace, so it's nice to be able to go from 80% efficiency to all electric. The customer has a lot of savings in operational costs running the all-electric system. Today we are going to show you guys how to replace this filter and the humidifier pad. On this one we showed up and both need to be serviced, so we're going to show that and film that, and that'll be helpful for customers in the future to remember what to look for. So we'll show you guys the HE250 humidifier from Honeywell. It does have 3 indicator lights on the front. 1 is that it's humidifying, 2 that it needs service, and 3 that the pad needs to be replaced. And like in our other videos, we have our air proving switch. This is to make sure that the humidifier only operates when the fan is operational. We don't want humidity to build up inside the ductwork with no airflow, causing it to drip down and rust out the ductwork. So that's the air proving switch that we have on the supply and the return. This is hooked into our controller, which is kind of in a little hidden spot over here. I'm going to switch directions and let Ayla get in here. And you can see up here, it's currently set to 35. You may have to get right up in there, Ayla, get a good shot of that. Currently set to 35. This is how you adjust the set point on the right. And this is the current humidity in the home. This button just makes the light stay on all the time or turn off automatically. And this, of course, is the on-off switch for the entire system. You can hear that solenoid kicking off and on. Maybe. So this is where you pretty much just set it and forget it. Maybe you're turning it off in the summertime, turning it on in the wintertime, but 35% is a good target for humidity. In here, it's giving us some indicators. It's saying F for fan, A for airspeed, then 0380. What that is saying that this is running at 380 CFM. I'm not sure if you can hear it. This is very, very quiet. Circulating air all the time so that the humidifier can run as well. But we're not blasting the home with a bunch of air like it would sound when the heat is on. With these systems, we have variable speed blowers that allow us to change the CFM demand based on the operation of the system. And because the outdoor unit is an inverter heat pump, it has many stages of heating and cooling as well. So this fan can match the demand of the heating and cooling of the system. This breaker you're seeing right here is a breaker to the main feed coming into the system. A 60 amp breaker. Now this is flexible, so you could actually pull this breaker down. You could actually lower that lever down if you needed to without removing this panel. That's why this is a soft, pliable plastic. The 60 amp breaker for this system is actually a 10 kW backup heat kit that's inside this air handler in this location. So you have the blower, you have the evap coil down below, and since the coil is below the auxiliary heat, we can operate both the heat pump and the auxiliary heat kit at the same time, which is very beneficial for when the heat pump cannot quite keep up with the demand in the home. The auxiliary heat kit can come on and energize and give it that little bit more heat that it needs to reach temperature. And then this will disengage and the heat pump may continue. All of this is done in the background through the Daikin 1 thermostat. It does not disconnect the outdoor unit, just the air handler, which would kill the thermostat and also shut down this air handler and heat kit. But this 60 amp breaker is not only powering the air handler, it's also powering the heat kit inside here for backup heat when they need it. Restart now.
Like Jim Carrey.
I look like Jim Carrey. Okay, so why do we have this electronic air cleaner from Honeywell? Well, the customer already had this system. Now back in the day, these were popular. They have an electrostatic. It creates a field that attracts the dust to the elements that are in here. These will zap and pop, and you'll see this light flash and back in the day you'd hear like all the zapping sounds going on. Well, we have done away with this technology. Really nobody's installing these anymore, but we can use it as a box for our filter. So instead of charging the customer more money and putting in a separate filter box, we were able to use the old one, take out the cells, take out the pre-filters, and install a nice thick 4-inch filter from Honeywell. Honeywell makes this filter that fits this box, and you know how we love our handy dandy 4-inch filters, so this is what we use. We don't use the 1-inch filters. So we're going to show you here how to change this filter. This particular model, you just pull hard here, kind of comes out. This is the old clip that would hold it into place. There's a bottom lip that would go in this hole to kind of keep everything together with a foam seal. Now they make these little pull outs so when it's difficult to grab the filter, and there's one on the bottom and there's one on the top, but you just pull these out. Okay, now if anybody in the video can see, do you see a problem with how that filter was installed? So I'll go ahead and tell you what's wrong with this. The airflow. That's in a different language there. Let's flip it over this way. So now it's upside down, but you can see the airflow is pointing towards the return duct. So which way does the air flow through the system? Down through the filter, up through the evap coil, into the blower, and through the auxiliary heat kit, and back up through the supply duct. So this filter was just installed backwards. Why is that important? The filter manufacturers make it so there is a primary direction of flow for the best airflow across the media. So it's not detrimental to the system. It's not going to mess it up if you get it in there wrong. It's just optimal airflow, which means you're going to have less resistance across the filter, lower the speed of the blower, because our new variable and ECM blowers will try to ramp up when there is restrictions or resistance. So we want the optimal flow to lower that blower speed, which in turn lowers the amps, lowers the energy, lowers the cost of operation. So we're going to put the filter in right, but I wanted to show you that that was actually installed backwards. On this filter, some of the manufacturers will show this. I want you to get up real close here. When we're running at a certain CFM, which I was talking about is displayed up there on the unit, this will show you what that resistance, now they say initial because that's a clean filter. What is that in inches of water column in resistance? So most systems today are designed up to a 0.8 total in the entire system. So since this is a large 20 by 25 filter, you can see our resistance is pretty low. And let's say we got up to 1700 CFM, we would see on a brand new filter resistance of 0.26 inches of water column. That would leave whatever's left over from 0.8 from all the ductwork, the transitions, the return grills, the supply registers. Every component in the system creates resistance. So this is important to know, especially if you're using a smaller filter. Now 1-inch filters are notorious for that inches of water column of resistance to be very high, and that's why we stay away from 1-inch filters. And these will last up to 6 months, where a 1-inch filter might be 45 days. Now obviously that's all depending on, you know, pets and dust in your home and air infiltration and run time and all kinds of different factors, but in general these will last you about 6 months. So you can see we have the airflow in the right direction, pointing towards the equipment. Sometimes I break these free for the customer just so next time it's easy to grab. And we'll go ahead, and if you look inside here, you can see there's these channels. These were pre-filter channels that were in here. And then if you look up at the top, you might be able to see these little electronic I don't know if you can see those, but those were little connection points between the cells, and the electricity would go through those. And of course this has all been decommissioned. We've pulled out some of the pieces that allow the filter to come in there now. So you can reuse these old electronic air cleaners and just put a media in it, which is what we highly recommend. So you can see this is going to fit perfectly between these two channels here. Can you see that? See these two channels in the middle? So we'll line that up and slide that right on inside. And like I said, this filter is made to fit these. Honeywell was smart to be able to do that. So that's how you change the filter. This doesn't do anything anymore. Now we're going to go ahead and put this door back on. Here again, this little thing goes in the hole. Make sure that fits in there, lines up, and that's it. So this was from the old furnace, from the old 80% furnace. We repurposed it, and we're now able to put in a nice high efficiency Honeywell air cleaner. Keep the bag from the new filter. Put the old dirty filter inside there, so when you're walking out of the house, you don't bump all that dust everywhere, and now you've got a nice bag for your old filter to be disposed of. So you guys might see some of these pieces of tape that we have in certain locations. This is actually to check static pressure, the static pressure in the duct. This helps us determine how to set up the system during commissioning. You'll see there's one there on the return duct. There's going to be one over here on the supply, kind of hidden off to the side. But that's what you see, these random pieces of tape. Now, unfortunately, Daikin does not come with a plug for this optional drain. So we've just taped it off, sealed it up. Not sure why, but that's something that we would really like Daikin to add. It would be nice if they added a plug for their optional drain. I'm not sure if they've done that, but we run into a few that don't have anything. Just a different way to position the air handler in a horizontal position. This is in a vertical position. We do have our safety switch in case the air conditioning main drain, this is for AC only. If it backs up, it'll float up into here. It'll overflow into the safety switch, lift this float, and it will send an alert signal to the air handler, and that will go up to the thermostat and say there's a problem with the system, please contact your contractor. So that's a safety switch. Keeps water from overfilling and going all over the floor. This would be very important in a place that had drywall or in a second level or really nice wood flooring, but we still add that to every system that we can. This, you guys might see this, any of you HVAC guys out there, that this is a standard filter box that you would put a furnace on. This would be the 29 deep for a furnace. We use these to raise our air handlers up off the ground, because an air handler, you cannot cut the side of it out. And if you look at our other videos, you'll see that we have a small 7-inch riser box, and then we have our furnace, because we're able to cut the side of the furnace out and take the plate out of the bottom. But in air handlers, that's not an option. You have to pull all the hair. You have to pull all the hair. No, don't do that. You have to pull all the air from the bottom. You can't come out the top. So look, they even include a 1-inch filter rack. Filter cover, it says, with 2 screws. Don't do this. If you're an installer, don't use this. It's included, and I wish they wouldn't, because that's back to the 1-inch filter with high resistance. So we just go ahead and seal that off. We don't open those. We leave that closed, and then we add this. So now you can see this is also sealed. We don't let the customers pop these doors. You can see there's a screw locking the door. It's been sealed with duct sealant. So this would have a channel inside of it for a 1-inch filter or a 2-inch filter. But like I said, we're just using this to repurpose it for the air handler, for the return to come back to the air handler. That's why we seal all this up. This is just an inexpensive way for us to do it, and it's quick, and that's why we use these, and give us some nice lift, which is capturing most of the filter, not all of it, but most of the filter. It saves the customer money and fabrication costs for us to make a custom box. So we just go ahead and use these. In most cases it works. If this was like a 5-ton unit, I would make sure this is taller so that it would capture 100% of that filter if this was a larger unit. This particular unit is a 3.5-ton. We do use our clear P-traps so that we can see if there's any need to clean it. Comes with the brush that we can shove down in the top this way or this way to clean the P-trap. Now, why is a P-trap very important on an air handler? On a traditional furnace, I'll show you a picture with a coil on top. You have a positive pressure in the coil. What does that mean? It means the coil is on the top of the furnace where there is a positive pressure pushing up, pushing a positive pressure into the ductwork. What happens then is water is actually kind of forced out. It's kind of forced out of the drain. Now, in this particular application, this is a negative pressure. Why is it negative? Because it is below the blower. So we are actually sucking air up, which creates a negative pressure. We're pulling things, we're sucking things closed. The ductwork would kind of pull in a little bit. This ductwork would expand a little bit, but we have to have P-traps on a negative pressure coil because it's going to draw air, it's going to suck air back through the drain, and it's going to pull it back into the coil. What problems does that cause? Well, now it can't drain. So the water starts to back up in the pan, and it can start to like lip over that pan because it's filling up and starts to just fall inside the box, on the floor, those kinds of things. When the P-trap is full of water though, just like a P-trap in your home for plumbing, it will not allow air to suck back through because there's a water in the U shape that's stopping the airflow. So very important that you use a P-trap on any sort of negative pressure coil. And that is how all of the air handlers are, negative pressure. We can get away with not having P-traps on our gas furnaces because they're positive pressure. They don't call you out on it on the codes because it's actually just pushing the water out, not sucking the water back. On our Daikin FIT systems, we do have bi-directional liquid line dryers. I'll have Ayla come in here and show you guys that this is a liquid line dryer that filters and cleans the refrigeration and dries any moisture. You obviously don't want any moisture, but it can take a little. And there's the bi-directional arrows there. Why is it bi-directional? Because the flow of the refrigerant can reverse on a heat pump. The heat pump can either heat or cool, so the refrigeration is flipping its direction on the liquid line. So here the green light is on for humidifying, so it's currently running. The service light is not on, even though it's kind of glowing a little bit. It's just from the other light, but the change pad is on. Now what you want to do first is turn off the humidifier, because as soon as you pull the pad out, water's just going to pour inside everything, and that's not a good thing, right? So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. I do recommend you wait about a minute or two to let the water kind of drain out of the pad. And it still says humidifying. Even though you've turned it off, it will say humidifying for about a minute. And this damper right here is an automatic damper. We like to install these because it's user friendly for the customer. They don't have to worry about closing this metal damper for summertime, opening it, you know, for wintertime. This is all happening automatically internally. But let's pop this top, and I want to show you guys. And I'm probably going to just take the camera from Ayla for a moment and see if you can see kind of how dirty that gets in there. A lot of minerals are building up. So we're going to go ahead and clean all that. We're going to clean the bottom tray as well. This is an indicator of which way the damper is pointing. And here it's closing. See it? There we go. And now the humidifying light is off, but it is still telling us to change the pad. So we're going to show you guys how to clean the pad, change the pad, and how to reset this timer. There's a couple different ways that you can change this pad. You can either pull it from this big black door on the side, or you can actually flip this to the other side. So let's say you want a left-hand side pull or a right-hand side. You can switch it internally, or you can take it from the top. We didn't know this for quite some time. You can actually pull it from the top. So pull it out from the right. Installers gave us just enough room to lower that down or bring it up. And here's your entire tray. It does say front on there. Now let's go show you guys how we clean this. Okay, we have a little relatively small sink we're working with here, but I'll show you what we'll do. Just pop this tray loose. See how that comes away from the back? That'll allow us to pull the entire media out. Okay, so what I like to do now is I'll have the new one ready. So this particular one, the homeowner purchased We use a little different model, but it is antibacterial, so this is a good one. Pull that out of the box. What I like to do is take the old one and place it right back in the box, just to try to keep a mess from happening. Okay, easy peasy. I like it. So while you got it all opened up here, let's take a brush. We have one from the trap we're going to use because we didn't bring our service bag today. Get a little bit of hot water, and we're just going to work that mineral loose. You want to clean that for a little bit. You know, any kind of brush. Just, I don't know if I'd use a wire brush. A wire brush would probably be okay, but it would scratch the plastic a lot. Let me get this out of the way for a moment. Okay. There we go. So like I said, this is not like the the best brush, but you get the idea here. Clean those minerals out. And it's very important that that hole in the bottom stays clear. That's what's going to cause a backup of the water and cause problems and have it leaking on the floor. So it's very important you do this and clean these, otherwise you will have a water mess. Just give it a nice scrub down, make sure the minerals are out of it, and you'll be good to go. And same goes for the top tray. You see how this is the distribution of the water. The water drips right here in the middle and it just spreads out. Do that little cleaning. And we don't want those minerals to start blocking the path of the water. Otherwise you'll get too much water on one side of the pad and not the other, and that won't give you good humidification. See those? There's also holes that are in here that you need to make sure they're clear as well. We don't want any minerals built up inside those holes and it won't drain properly. There we go, looking a lot better. All right, I'll give it one once over on the outside. Look at that, brand new. Love it. Okay, so there you go, pretty straightforward. Now let's show you how we put the new one back in. Don't want to leave the customer's sink dirty. Always wipe that down as well. Okay. Okay, let's take the base. Show you guys how we do this. Now some of these will have an indicator. They'll have a piece, they'll have some paint, a color on it. This one does not. So this one can be installed in either direction, but most pads like the ones we buy will have a color on one side. That will be up if you have color. Okay, we're just going to place it in the bottom like that. Take the top tray, remember it says front. Make sure you're getting the whole pad inside there. Drop it down. You don't want anything on the back. You want everything fitting inside. And then we're going to just put that into those channels. If you guys can see that channel, just fits in there like that on both sides, and it will make a little sound and pop. And that's it. You're ready to go. Oh, I got a little mess on the bottom, I forgot. Let me get that real quick. Breakaway just for a second. I know everybody's heard this before, but if you can like and subscribe, it really helps our channel. Let's get right back to it. Real quick, I just use the same bag that I have the filter with. I use that to put all of it in, so you can take that out of the homeowner's house without making a mess. Sometimes they're wet and they're still dripping. So I do recommend you clean the nozzle a little bit that's feeding the water. Make sure that's also clear of debris. You can see the handle. So let's in the front. Let's put this back in. You do want to make sure it's flush. Sometimes it'll sit out a little bit. I don't know if you can see that edge. You definitely want to make sure that's nice and tight. This has a little tab, just kind of like our filter rack did. to give us a place to start. Bring it down, pop it in, make sure we're flush. Now let's see that red light still on, right? And we've changed the pad. So let's go ahead and pull this out. You're gonna have to get in real close here. I wanna show you this button. Okay, you hold this white button next to it until the red light goes out. Okay, it flashes, and now we've changed we've reset the timer. So now this system knows it's got a new pad. Go ahead, and this one has 2 prongs. Place those in the corners. Make sure it's in there nice. You can see this clear plastic is what's actually traveling the light from the board to the front. But you want to make sure no wires are getting pinched. Everything should be nice and tucked up underneath here where we have a little clip. Put that in place and then make sure both sides sit flush. Now I always turn it back on. I'm gonna reach over here and I want to make sure that it's working properly. One thing you guys want to check on too is make sure no water starts dripping out of the bottom of the unit. I always teach my technicians to do this and then do some other things, so there's some time for things to get wet and work, because we've had a few instances where water starts leaking out and then you find that you didn't get the pad seated properly or something like that. So that's it. That's the maintenance on this. Cleaning the trays, cleaning the top distribution tray, cleaning the bottom tray, putting the new pad in, and resetting the timer. Now this is an advanced model. Like I said, we do not use the basic standard models. So we have the powered damper. We have water saving technology because it doesn't saturate the pad all the time. It actually will get it nice and wet and then turn off and let that humidity go into the system and then turns back on. And that saves a lot of water versus it just running and running and running all the time. So that's also another benefit to the HE250A. The A is the automatic. We do run hot water to these systems. We have hot water from the water heater. That gives us more humidity, kind of like a hot shower would give you more humidity. We use hot water for these particular units. So not to badmouth anyone, but we do water heaters as well. And I'm noticing a few things right off the bat that this company did not do that we would have done. One, the water heater could have been closer to the wall. There is almost 6 inches of space between the wall and the water heater pan. Why not utilize that? 2, I can tell a plumber did this because they're the ones who cut these like this. This does not need to be cut. This fits directly over the hood. So I'm not sure why plumbers do that. Another thing we wouldn't have done is put an elbow directly on the diverter. You want to go up as high as you can go, then turn, giving good lift, good rise, good stack effect for an atmospheric vented water heater. Now, it's fine. I don't see any plastic that's melted. That would be an indication. If you go down to your water heater and you see plastic melted around the rings or anywhere else, that means it's spilling out flue gases, which could be a number of things. Could be too much negative pressure in the room, leaky ductwork, creating that negative pressure. Maybe the vent isn't rising enough and then turning, but we would have done this vent a little differently as well. Another thing I would have changed is the direction of the unit. I'm not sure why you would want the regulator over here when you could face the regulator towards the door and towards the rest of the equipment. It would be easier for the customer to see the diagnostic lights and also work on the water heater if they need to relight it. Another thing, drain pan is great, but if you don't drain it to the floor drain, they never go to the floor drain. Water will always find a different way to go. So to not run the 1-inch PVC over to the floor drain was another bad move in my opinion. So I just wanted to show the differences between how we would do a water heater and another company has done this water heater. I don't see any safety issues. It's just really poor installation in my opinion. Also, they've sold the customer an expansion tank. Well, when you're in the mountains and you have a well with a pressure tank, this has a big diaphragm in it that's allowing it to build pressure. Well, that's the same thing as this. So in the city, you need these because you're on city water. What are these for? Well, when the water pressure changes in the house, like the washing machine comes on and off real quick, that water pressure needs to go somewhere. You don't want your water heater to be your pressure tank. That's what causes early failures of your water heater tank. So you want an expansion tank. But I can tell someone from the city came up and installed this because they put an expansion tank on it, which is not required because they have a well with a huge expansion tank that's going to absorb those pressure changes. So this was redundant, not needed, and the customer probably had to pay for that. The videos that we have shown were 90% efficient gas furnaces. This was an 80%. So on propane application that we are up here, this was a huge upgrade in savings because 80% is using more fuel to heat than a 90% efficient plus efficient furnace. So this was a really good upgrade to go from 80% to an all-electric heat pump system. And like I've said in my other videos, propane's expensive in these locations, and our electric is only 9 cents a kilowatt. And if you go to peak and off peak, you can get it down to 6 cents a kilowatt. So really inexpensive electricity. So up here, it just makes all the sense in the world to go all electric, to see hundreds of dollars in savings in the wintertime. Okay, we're up here at the thermostat. This is the Daikin 1 thermostat we've shown before. It is saying it's circulating air, and that was that 380 CFM we were talking about. But let's show you guys, we've never shown this, how to reset the timer for the reminders on the filter and the humidifier pad if you have it set up that way. We do not have the humidifier pad set up in this system. We have it set up to control from the actual included digital controller. We're going to hit the little hamburger up here, those 3 lines. I know there's a better name for it. I hit the settings here, and here's your reminders. Click that, and we can see that it has these days. So the media filter, reset it. Just restart that timer. So let's make sure that's selected and it's been reset. The filter that is 4 inches thick should be about a 6-month replacement time. So we do 6 months. Now the service reminder, that should be every 12 months on an all-electric system because we do it all one time in the summertime because there's no furnace that would need to be maintenanced in the fall. So we do it all in the summer when we can check the charge and stuff properly. I'm going to go ahead and just reset that now and show you how that's done. And make sure it's also on the 12 months for this particular job. Most of them would be 6 months for dual fuel or just standard AC and furnace. So there we go. Everything's been reset for the reminders. And you can hit the big home on this button. So that's it. That's how you do it. Pretty simple. Okay, so on this all-electric system, we installed a pan heater in this. That's to keep ice from building up. This will go through a defrost cycle. When the ice builds up on the back of the coil, it'll automatically thaw all that. And this one we actually used a large pad to put the mini split stand on, but we're going to use the mini split stand on all electric systems, and that gives it some rise over the snow levels and allows it to defrost and have that water come down and drain. It's so quiet. Yeah. The wind is louder than the unit. Yeah. Isn't that incredible? So we did take the time to film an MXL ductless mini split with 4 indoor heads and 1 outdoor unit where we showcase the entire job, the installation. We'll have a link to the video up here for the MXL full installation video where we can show the pan heater installation and so much more. Thanks for coming along with another video of Grant's Heating and Air where we show off the Daikin FIT all-electric system. We're excited to show this system and excited to do many more. If you guys have any questions, please leave comments below. I love to answer any questions that you guys have.